Forget that it is you as an individual who adds to the collective numbers. And when one person again stays away in our constituency saying it's only myself, another one is reasoning the same way, and eventually we find ourselves that we don't have the numbers. And it's unfortunate. Last week, I have to report here, Your Excellency, on Thursday afternoon, the other side were more than us in the House. In fact, at one point, the leader of minority approached me to close debate on the affordable housing bill. Of course, knowing that if we closed at that point, they had the numbers. But we should be able to conclude that business tomorrow. Hopefully, on Wednesday afternoon, we get into third reading. Again, during third reading, we will be asking all of you to be present so that we're able to conclude with that debate and be able to process the bill forward to the Senate so that they're able to advertise it by Friday, do their public participation, and we get a new affordable housing bill before the next payroll. And usually many corporations, both private and public, process their payrolls after the 15th of the month. So we hope by the 15th of March, Your Excellency, you will have processed, you will have assented to the new affordable housing bill. We also have regulations. I know CS Nakumisha has been working very hard, taken the health laws regulations through public participation, and we expect that will also be coming before the House, both houses this time. We also have a number of bills that are in the Senate, especially touching on agriculture, critical bills, and I know the Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot will be speaking to some of those. Your Excellency, in conclusion, let me take this opportunity to also thank members of our cabinet who have been very diligent. I know there are many cabinet secretaries who have not had time to come before the House with the amended standing orders to answer to questions and statements. At times, because many of the questions that will be processed will touch on a few critical areas: energy, education. I know CS Machogu has been there quite a number of times, roads, and of course, security. I know CS Kindiki has also been there quite a number of times. There also have been issues to do with human-wildlife conflicts, and those, the ministers in charge of tourism have also had an opportunity. There are many others who have not had an opportunity. We are making efforts to make sure that you find an opportunity. I will not encourage you to go the Margaret Thatcher regime way, where there was a scandal that was called Cash for Questions, where cabinet secretaries would pay members of the House of Representatives to ask questions so that you may be able to come and answer them. But we, in the leadership, will make sure that whenever there is a question that touches on any of your departments, for those cabinet secretaries who have not had the opportunity to appear before the House, to be able to prioritize those particular ministries to come before the House. Lastly, is to request our cabinet secretaries, every time you find an opportunity to come and answer to a question or to a statement requested by a member of Parliament, please take that time as also an opportunity to espouse on government policy. And maybe, for instance, I don't know, CS Eliud Owalo has not been there, for instance. If you get an opportunity to answer to a question, take that opportunity to also challenge us as members of Parliament to also be a bit quick in pushing through government agenda, especially something like the ICT hubs. It's a perfect opportunity to come and speak to members of Parliament and to the country, because you have almost a whole hour on TV free of charge. So it's a very good opportunity to also use that to espouse on government policy and push our agenda and market our agenda to the people of Kenya. And I hope many of you who have that opportunity this year will make use of that time in the House. It doesn't harm to talk to us, to generate questions on your behalf. If there's something that you want to come and speak to, if there's something on mining, and CS Mvuria, you have not seen anybody asking a question, if you talk to me, I can get a member of Parliament to generate a question that will offer you an opportunity to come and espouse on what you want to do on the agenda of mining. Si swali ni swali. Na kwenye inatoka, sio hoja, bora ni ujumbe ifikie wenye inafaa kufikia. And by speaking to members of parliament from the floor of the House, you will also have an opportunity to speak to the country at a prime time when many Kenyans are watching. And I'm happy cabinet secretaries like the Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen has done very well in taking advantage of even very difficult questions. I remember when there was a question on the allocation of resources to roads, and CS Murkomen was able to turn around the question and put it back to Parliament itself. And I remember when he left the House, those of us who are members of the Budget Committee and the Roads Committee were pleading with Honorable Murkomen to please not appear back in the House. On the Kamukunji, he promised that he would even want an opportunity to have a Kamukunji with members of Parliament. So I want to encourage other cabinet secretaries, please take time, CS Florence, on the jobs in the diaspora and other opportunities, CS Oalo on the online jobs through the ICT hubs, to use the floor of the House to be able to market what we are doing as a government. Your Excellency, I know there are also some touchy issues that you'll be speaking to, issues that touch on our conduct also as members of Parliament, our participation in the House, how as members of Parliament who are on the government side ought to carry ourselves on in the House and even outside the House. We've had a number of challenges, a few of them, where, for instance, and this is a best case example, Your Excellency, we have delays in disbursement of NGCDF. And you remember the no CDF. It was no CDF, no what? No Parliament. And Your Excellency, I will often find myself on the receiving end, being the leader of the House and being the person who ought to be representing the cabinet secretary when he's not there. And you can imagine the situation I find myself in when we have our own members who are leading in the process of no CDF, no Parliament, and they're behind me. And across, on the other side of the floor, there's a whole brigade of our colleagues from the minority side in the same chorus. So we need to socialize ourselves now that there is no other government other than ourselves. On the floor of Parliament, there is no government. It is us who are government on the floor of the House. And therefore, even when there's an agenda that is not pro-government per se, or where we think government in a way has slackened, possibly, and I gave the case example of NGCDF because it also touches on me. And you see the way I also struggle when I'm speaking to say I don't speak for any cabinet secretary, including Professor Ndungu. I speak as a representative of the people of Kikuyu today on NGCDF. But we do so with caution so that we also do not in any way incite the House not to carry on with business. Case example, members are signing signatures to impeach a cabinet secretary on account of non-disbursement of NGCDF. And you find a member of Kenya Kwanza signing to impeach a cabinet secretary on non-disbursement of NGCDF. And it is within our right. But I just want to say, Your Excellency and honorable members, it is in our right to oversight these cabinet secretaries, but also to appreciate that all the challenges that we face as a country and as a government, there are no other leaders that we are looking up to resolve those challenges. We must be part of the solution. And I know we have had challenges with exchequer releases. We have really harassed CS Ndungu and PS Kipto on NGCDF. But I just pleading for some understanding. In fact, Your Excellency, I was engaging a number of us, a number of chairs of committees, and reminding ourselves last year, which was the second session after the elections, and when just before we did our first budget, we will all remember the first NGCDF disbursement was done at the end of February, the very first one. And by June 30th, Your Excellency, 100% of our NGCDF disbursement had been done. For the first time since I joined Parliament in 2013, it was the first time that we had NGCDF being disbursed 100%. This time, we have had the same challenges, Your Excellency. The first disbursement of NGCDF was done early January, 10 billion shillings, and the CS National Treasury has committed to a disbursement of 10 billion shillings every month to ensure that by the end of the financial year again, we have 100% disbursement of NGCDF. So it is that kind of understanding that I want to plead with all of us, because we know the challenges, Your Excellency, you've had with debt repayment. I know there is some very bright light at the end of the tunnel now with opportunities that come with the resolution of the issues to do the Eurobond and a lot of receipts coming from our development partners. The exchequer releases will be more efficient than they have been. And these challenges, Your Excellency, are not just in Parliament, and that's why I thought it was fair that I raise this matter here, because I know these members of Parliament also have a lot of pressure, including myself, from our constituents, when NGCDF disbursements are late and children are waiting for bursaries. But we must also not forget that the first disbursements that were done, I think, to the Ministry of Education touched on capitation to our schools. And without the capitation, you can imagine the situation would only get worse. And therefore, it's more important, even as we fight for our disbursements for NGCDF, to also be cognizant of all the other competing challenges. And I say this because I have been chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the last Parliament. And I'm certain if Honorable Dindi Nyoro stood here on Honorable Kimani Kuria, our chair of finance, they would tell members the same, because they have a view of the situation as it is in the country. Your Excellency, with those very many remarks, allow me to now invite our leader of majority in the Senate to give his brief remarks, then invite our Deputy President for his opening remarks. Thank you, and God bless you, and wish you all a good engagement throughout the day. And for the Cabinet, who will be here for another 2 days, all the best in your engagements. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimani. Your Excellency, the President and the leader of our party, the Deputy President of the Republic, colleague legislators, members of Cabinet, and I guess everyone who's here, I greet you all good morning. Good morning once again. Well, I never tire, Your Excellency, to say how much it's a privilege for us to come together, especially those of us that are in Parliament, and we know the journey that we have walked, to get this opportunity to interact and reflect on our journey this far, share what our views are, the challenges that we are facing, and how we can forge ahead to achieve the objectives that we set out for ourselves when we went out and spoke to the people of Kenya. Therefore, Your Excellency, allow me to appreciate this opportunity on behalf of the members of the Senate to interact with you and the members of the executive, to share ideas and also just give an update of our work in Parliament, what is before us, the challenges that we're experiencing, and then forge ahead together as one united team. At the Senate, Your Excellency, we have had also a busy season the last few months, just before we went on recess. If you'll recall, members, actually, it was on account of business before the Senate that we had to stop the last PG, and we had interacted and reached a point where members were just about to make their remarks on various issues. But then, because of the pending legislative work that was before us, we stopped and agreed to reconvene again. We are glad to be back here. At the Senate, Your Excellency, we have considered quite a significant number of bills that are key to the promises that we made to the people. And I want to take this earliest opportunity to appreciate the members of our side of the House who have all been extremely supportive. And at the times when we needed them, at least 90 to 99% have showed up and voted with us. It's not a very easy experience. And I say this knowing that perhaps very few people understand that remark. Perhaps only those that have served in the Senate understand the difficulty of raising the magical 24. It's never an easy business. And I am to appreciate that this present term of the Senate, members have been extremely supportive in passing business that has been forwarded to us. Quickly, Your Excellency, in the interest of time, I will mention that we are anxiously awaiting the housing bill, which the Honorable Lichungwa has spoken about. Once our colleagues in the Assembly conclude on it, we will definitely consider it. Chances are we have our slight different views on one or two issues, but as you know, we have been quite fast at agreeing and closing ranks every time us and the Assembly have a different view on any particular matter. In fact, I'm glad to report, and I appreciate our colleagues in the Assembly as well, that the 2 or 3 bills that have gone through a mediation process this time, within the first meeting, we were able to close ranks and agree, meaning those from the Assembly were able to see things from our perspective as Senate, and us were able to understand you as our colleagues from the Assembly. It's not very usual. The last 2 terms of Parliament, that never used to happen. In fact, it used to be, the meetings actually used to break down, Your Excellency, on account of who chairs. You sit down and you have the team from the Assembly, the team from the Senate. Just to agree on who leads the meeting will break that mediation process. But I'm glad and happy to report that we have come out of age as an institution and are now focused on the things that matter. Of course, we have quite a heavy program, but there are about 2 or 3 or 4 bills maximum that I just want to report, Your Excellency, that we shall be giving priority in the next few, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to conclude on, because of how key and integral they are to many of the plans that we have as an administration. The Food and Feed Safety Bill that is presently before our Agriculture Committee is in 2nd reading, Your Excellency. And by the end of this week that you're beginning, we should be able to conclude on its 3rd reading, because the report has been tabled and our committees have proposed their amendments to what you had done in the Assembly, Mheshimiwa Ichungwa. So I believe we should be able to close rank on that particular issue. We have a controversial bill that began its legislative process last week, the Water Amendment Bill. And while at this, I say to my colleague senators last week, and allow me to repeat it here, Your Excellency, that those that have served in Senate, Professor Kindiki, our first majority leader, you know that the easiest way that opposition can defeat a government bill, so to speak, in Senate is to declare it that this is anti-devolution. You're rolling back the gains. And without knowing, many a times people join into the chorus. And I have endeavored to remind my colleague senators that at least in the term that I have served as majority leader, I have never received a call from His Excellency, the President or his deputy, asking me that you must insist on a bill to come in a particular way. On many occasions, even when he has called to find out why did you guys change this particular provision, he has agreed with our wisdom as Senate. It is within our powers as a legislature to change whatever bill or proposal that has come from the office of the AG. Therefore, each time we consider a government bill, and I'm sure by now everybody knows what a government bill is, it is within your right to pass any amendment. But what I perhaps take great exception to is us sometimes appreciating and agreeing to a chorus that our colleagues from the minority side love initiating, and sometimes we unwittingly join and say that, in fact, if we pass this particular bill, we'll have either rolled back the gains or this or the other. It is important to declare, and I declare this in your sitting, Your Excellency, that at no particular time have you insisted that Parliament needs to transact their job in any particular way. You have given us the freedom to think and appreciate things, especially us from the Senate. On many occasions, we don't agree with our colleagues in the Assembly. And I want to tell my membership that if you bring an amendment, and for sure you can convince the rest of us all that that secures our mandate, it places counties at the forefront on many of these issues, be assured of our support from I as your leader of the majority and the leadership of the House, so that we can all progress together. That is just a pitch to propose and request our colleagues that let us maintain the 100% record that we have. There is no government bill that has come to the Senate and has been defeated on any account. We amend, that is within our mandate, and that's our business. So I expect that on this water amendment bill, and Your Excellency, you know, this is a bill that allows us to keep the promise that we made on the various water institutes that are in our counties, allowing them to enter into PPP agreements. Because as an administration, and Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah has spoken to this, you know very well that we don't have sufficient resources to roll out water programs in all our counties. And the thinking that has come from the executive, which we are at liberty to make a determination and make it better perhaps, so that it looks good and is in sync with our constitution, especially appreciating the two levels of government, should be to support this dream and this thinking that we are able to run county programs, water programs using the PPP framework. Finally, Your Excellency, are the three agriculture bills that Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah mentioned. The one on coffee, that we want to streamline and ensure that coffee has its own agency, just like we did for tea. There's an amendment on the tea bill as well that was done in 2020. His Excellency, the Deputy President, knows the number of meetings he has chaired and the proposals that you gave us when we had the meeting you chaired in Kericho. We are almost concluding on that bill. And on sugar, there's a lot that you're doing in the sugar industry, Your Excellency. Our committee has agreed with virtually everything that the Assembly did, save for the zoning part. We have challenges. We appreciate and we agree with you that it is important to do zoning so that we can foster privatization. But the zoning formula that our colleagues in the Assembly took, we hold a slightly different view. We agree with the zoning that was proposed in the task force report that was done in the year 2020. And that's what we shall be proposing. Then, of course, we'll conclude. Finally, Your Excellencies, you know that little assignment that you gave us between the leader of majority in the Assembly and myself on the national dialogue. We begin that conversation today. It is important you make mention of that very difficult exercise that you gave us, because the report begins a journey tomorrow in the Senate. At 2:30, we shall begin debate. There are many things that are beneficial to us in that particular report. Therefore, I'm pitching to you that perhaps you help my members who have a very radical view on that particular report to support, and we pass it so that we do other things. Of course, the BPS is here. We know that as a Senate, we don't have an exclusive role on this budget-making process, Your Excellency, but because we are leaders, we have an opinion also. And there's something that I'd wish to share, on that a concern that senators have, which we would wish to make as a request to you as a leader of the executive and as our colleagues in the Assembly as well. If you look at our counties, Your Excellency, because of many of them borrow their budgeting framework from what is done in the executive. And we have done well in managing this economy, despite all the difficult challenges that we've had. But, Your Excellency, there's something that we can improve, and we should as a team. When doing our budgets, including the BPS that has been laid, the business of setting extremely high revenue projections and budgeting on it leaves us with pending bills in our counties, and it is on account of it, Your Excellency, that we have the debt crisis that we currently continue to face. I'd wish to request, Your Excellency, that let us be realistic in our budgeting. There is no harm. And I believe many of the leaders that are here have no difficulty explaining to our constituents sometimes why certain projects will have to delay, because you have led the country in appreciating that we can manage our economy more prudently than we have done in the past. On account of that exercise, how the executive have done it at the national level, our counties have borrowed in. Many of our counties, they are projecting, on-source revenue of 1 billion shillings for a county that the last financial year collected 100 million. Then they issue jobs of 900 million. What do you have? People that are despondent, they have jobs, they have done, but they cannot be paid because that money is not there. That practice, they borrowed it from us in Parliament and at the county. Unfortunately, as Senate, we don't have a say in that matter, but because we are leaders, we'd wish to plead with you, the executive, and our colleagues in the National Assembly, that as you consider this year's BPS, build your budget at least on, if it is a revenue projected growth, let us be realistic. A maximum, our revenue growth doesn't go beyond 10% in a financial year. What is the wisdom? Forgive me, but I felt it is important for me to pass that point on behalf of senators. Therefore, with those very many remarks, colleague senators, allow me to take this opportunity to invite the truthful man. You know, Your Excellency, as you were walking, I was reminding, for those of us that used to come to this hotel for Tangatanga meetings, I was reminding His Excellency, the Deputy President, that his stint at being a truthful man did not begin when he became Deputy President. One evening we came here for a PG meeting, and it was those times where we used to have colleagues who would show up for Tangatanga today, the next weekend they show up in Kelewek. The DP stood in the meeting and caused chaos like you have never seen. There was one particular man, I'll not mention his name, because he's a friend to many of us. And the DP said, so long as this man is here, this meeting is not going to start. And we had a stand-off for 1 hour. Fortunately, that man pleaded. He never listened to you, and in the subsequent elections, he lost. I wish he had listened to the truthful man. Today, he'd be here in this PG. With those remarks, allow me to welcome our Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. A round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, our President, Dr. William Ruto, the leadership of the House, our Cabinet Secretaries, our Principal Secretaries, and everybody present. Good morning. God is good, and all the time. On behalf of our President, let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this meeting, a joint meeting between the Executive and our legislators from our side of the coalition, a meeting of minds to chart the way forward, because as the President has aptly put it, this is a year. We have this year, 2024 and 2025, to work for the people of Kenya and fulfill our 5-year mandate with the people. Starting 2026, anything that we do is perceived as politics and as a strategy to look for votes. So this great meeting that the President convened and insisted that we need to engage with our leaders in both houses so that we are all speaking the same language. Your Excellency, let me thank you once more for always having time to engage with elected leaders. It is your philosophy that elected leaders are very important and you cannot get far without their input. And that is why when the executive retreat was convened, you insisted that the legislature should be here so that we discuss and not talk in the same language. Before I invite the President, I just had 2 things that I wanted to say. One, I want to thank our members in both houses for the support and the commitment in making sure that our legislative agenda carries the day in Parliament. And I want to say that we'll continue to engage all the time so that we are all looking at things the same way, because we serve the people of Kenya and we all belong to the same administration. Secondly, I want to ask our Cabinet Secretaries and Principal Secretaries to replicate what the President and I do when we are going out there. Anytime the President is going to a county, the planning is done together with elected leaders, especially from this side of the people who support the government. We want to ask our Cabinet Secretaries and Principal Secretaries, when you have some programs in a certain county, please talk to the elected leaders. Let them not hear that you are there from some posters that have been posted, or they are hearing from the media. It is not right. It is not respectful. even where you are going and you have been invited by governors, you are in the national government. And these are the people we work together in the national government. Let us involve them. And if the president has time to engage them, I have time to engage them. You should also have time to engage them. And I also want to plead with our CSS and our PSS, don't relegate consultation of elected leaders to your personal assistants. Do it personally, because we do so ourselves. When we are going out, the president creates a day to engage with leaders from that region, understand the issues, agree on the program, and everything is very seamless. I do the same. So let us from here have time to talk to elected leaders, because it is the right thing to do. Again, we also want to ask the leadership of Parliament to also consider, much as you have the role to oversight government and call our ministers to Parliament, sometimes it becomes very difficult for us to work because our ministers are perpetually in the House, in different committees. I think Your Excellency will request a meeting with the leadership so that we agree on how to balance between ministers appearing in Parliament to answer questions and also be available to serve. Because sometimes even we have cabinet committees, we are not able to prosecute our agenda because ministers are in out of Parliament. But I believe with some engagement with the leadership, we can agree on an acceptable way where we allow ministers to function at the same time they appear before Parliament. Finally, on the national government constituency development fund, our members, you know for sure, and it's not a secret, that our courts wanted to do away with this fund. But our president, having been a member of Parliament, appreciating the importance of that fund, in his magnanimity, fought very hard to ensure that this fund stays. And it was the right decision, because this fund is a fund that is felt. Because one, is only 6% that goes to recurrent. Everything else goes to development. So when the government, led by our president, has a few challenges in terms of availability of exchequer because of the challenges of revenue collection, we also want to ask our members, likewise, to extend the same magnanimity when the Parliament is taking a decision on how to react when money is not available on time. I have sat with the president many times, and I want to confirm to you that he is on the neck of Professor Ndung'u and P.S. Kiptoo to release money to members of Parliament through the fund. And he is very clear that it should always be given a priority. So some of us who sit with him making those decisions, when we see you joining the other side of the House in a way that is a bit demoralizing, we feel a little bit low. So I want to ask you kindly to be magnanimous, to appreciate the challenges that we face as a country, and to know that the president from where he sits is your #1 supporter in terms of having funds to implement your mandate. I think with that understanding, it will help the situation as we move on. Finally, before I call you, Your Excellency, to address these great people, let me ask everybody here, the executive and the legislature, let us focus on helping the president to succeed. I am persuaded from where I sit that that is the most important thing in the next 2 years. Those of us who campaigned for President William Ruto give the people of Kenya hope and assurance that you transform this country and their lives. We therefore have a duty to make sure that President William Ruto and his administration must succeed. Let us spend time and focus in activities and programs to make sure that the president honors his mandate with the people of Kenya. Other things can wait for 2026, but 2024, 2025, we must all be united and must focus to do whatever it takes to make sure that the president delivers to the people of Kenya. Finally, Your Excellency, I had somebody saying that you should not look at the rear mirror. I want to encourage you to continue looking at the rear mirror, because the inventor of the motor vehicle was not mad by putting the rear mirror. In your leadership, Your Excellency, you have made it very clear that no Kenyan should be left behind. So you must continue looking at the rear mirror to make sure that all Kenyans are on board and they are not left behind. Again, Your Excellency, there are also people who would want to derail your vehicle. There are those who like to puncture the rear wheels. There are those who like to remove goods from your pickup behind. You must continuously look at the rear mirror and the side mirrors so that anybody who may want to derail your vehicle, you are ahead. And again, Your Excellency, your pace is too fast for those of us who help you, myself and these cabinet secretaries. Sometimes you are too fast, you leave us behind. So continue looking. So when you find your deputy is being left behind, you urge him to come to catch up with you and the rest to catch up with you so that this country can move forward. With those few remarks, let me request you to be upstanding and help me to usher in our leader, the President of the Republic of Kenya. Makofi.
Asanteni sana, tafadhali tuketi. Mr. Deputy President, leaders of majority, National Assembly and Senate, Cabinet secretaries present, senators, members of Parliament, good morning. Hamjambo. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of us to this retreat of both the executive and our members of the legislature. Karibuni sana to Naivasha. I came last evening. I thought we were going to have a bonfire, but I found very many of you had already, I think you had other assignments. Anyway, so, but I want to say this is a very important retreat. It is the first retreat we are having combining both the members of the executive, ministers and cabinet secretaries and the principal secretaries, together with our members of Parliament. Last year, we had a similar retreat, but it was just for the executive. But we later had an engagement with different committees. So welcome to this very important occasion. And going into the future, we are going to have at least every year a meeting like this. And so that we can together look at where we are, where we need to go, and how we get there. I must say from the beginning that I am a very proud leader of this team. The last 1 year has seen us do very many things. And it has not happened because of myself and my deputy, or with the ministers alone, or with the members of Parliament alone. We've done this together. And I want to appreciate the input, the contribution of each and every one of us to the place where we are today. I want to remind you friends, that we have a historic opportunity to change our country. Many of you may not appreciate, because some of us are first-timers, and others do not have as much experience. I am among now the oldest people around here in terms of being around politics and leadership. I want to tell you from where I sit, we have a moment in history to unlock the potential that Kenya has always had and to take this country to the next level. I want to urge you that let us not waste this moment. It is a moment when we have a manifesto that I believe, if implemented and when implemented, it can transform Kenya. We have the numbers, both in the Senate and in the National Assembly, to assist us to change Kenya. I want to urge you, I know there is always a temptation to do what politicians do, and that is to focus at the next election. I want to urge you, let's do what leaders would do. Let's focus at the transformation of our country, and let us focus at what contribution we can